Hello, everybody. This is Wendy Nystrom with Environmental Social Justice, and I am welcoming back Miss Osprey. We had her here about last year talking about her book, The Story is in Our Bones. She is also the founder and executive director of WECAN. So welcome back, Osprey.
So glad to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I know you're super busy. You've just started this amazing new group called the Global Women's Assembly for Climate Justice, Path to COP30 and Beyond. That's a large group of people involved. I took a look at the website. You have a ton of speakers lined up. Could you tell people what the background of that is and how it came to be?
Sure. And thank you for asking. So the Women's Earth and Climate Action Network, or WECAN, was formed back in 2009. And we were finding our way forward. It's an organization that I founded. And around 2013, I had done a lot of networking and meeting with women and gender diverse leaders all over the world. And I really felt the need to bring us all together in one space. And that time was our first assembly. It was in upstate New York, and it was just amazing. There has been a conversation at the intersection in climate and women and gender for a while, but it still was quite small. Other groups, of course, were engaged, which we really look to, like we do, and WCF and the Women and Gender Constituency. But yeah, it was one of the first, at least, big gatherings like it. And it was amazing. It was 100 women and gender diverse leaders from the global north and south. And we wrote together for 4 days something called the Women's Climate Action Agenda, which is on our website, and people still refer to it. Of course, things have updated since 2013. And we've been doing these assemblies. There's been about 7 of them. We did one in France, parallel to the climate agreement, the Paris climate talks, which produced the Paris climate agreement. And throughout different COPs, we've had parallel events. We've done some online. And this year's assembly will be online starting in June, on June 23rd to June 28th. And we're thrilled. There's going to be 125 leaders from all over the world, from 50 countries, for 6 days, over 25 very outstanding panels. So we're really excited to bring all these incredible leaders together for an assembly that people from all over the world can join.
As you know, my passion in life is communication, education, and outreach, trying to get the message across to people in a simplified manner of why climate change matters, why we do what we do. But this particularly political environment is a little charged and a bit challenging right now. So how are you getting through that? How are you managing some of the negativity that's been surrounding this particular field?
Well, let's face it, we're in a very big crisis here in the United States. And, the rise of right-wing governments has been going on for a while. And, I think it's important to note that this is not new. What is happening is not new. It is being amplified. We're coming to a very heightened stage of the intersection of interlocking crises of patriarchy, capitalism, racism, and colonization, and how this feeds into a very negative narrative about how we're living with each other and the earth. And so we need to look at how do we dismantle these harmful systems and bring about a new vision of how we want to live with one another, and how do we actually transform at a systemic level to live in egalitarian, healthy, and just societies. And that's the vision we're really holding, and that's what really keeps us inspired. And we need to understand that, there are these big political moments, there is an attack, not just on democracy, but the capacity for us to respond to emergencies, to respond to equity, to respond to the climate crisis and ecological degradation and social ills. So all of these things we need to see sort of as interlocking and interrelated. And when we have a systemic approach and a systems level understanding, it really makes things more clear about what we need to sort of tug on the different levers for change. And so that's what we're doing in terms of like, how do we address this moment, is to understand it's been going on historically for a long time. We're having a heightened moment, but we need to not bend. We need to not break. We need to be together. We need to unite and do what women have always done, which is bring, knowledge, wisdom, and healing to our communities, even in the really hard times.
I love the fact you brought up the systematic approach, because I do know many people that they get very emotional, they get worked up, and in this particular environment, there just seems to be quite a bit of anger and hatred, which seems to take over. And I'm sure you guys come across numerous obstacles. And do you have advice for people who may feel overwhelmed and don't know what to do, or how to think this through, to deal with such obstacles, or how to just get managing it?
Such a good question. And I can just offer some ideas. I mean, I think we're all wrestling with it. I mean, I think we have our good days and our bad days. I mean, there's no easy way to navigate this moment. I think, some of the things that are really important are to be in community with one another. I think the overwhelm is really something that we are all facing, but we can't face it alone. It's just too much to shoulder that on our own. It's too big of a burden. And so I think one of the key things is to be with friends and colleagues, or join groups that are doing kinds of work that you think is really important or uplifting or going to have an impact that you're interested in. And to be together, I think, is absolutely critical. So that's like the first thing, is don't be alone. And
Find people.
find people, be with your people, build community together. I think it's also important to have time in nature if it's possible for you, because we also need to restore and regenerate our internal well-being. And I find, for me, one of the best places is in nature to do that. Like, Mother Earth is still here while all of this insanity is going on, and all this confusion and all of this violence and all of this hatred that you mentioned. Like, the deer are still giving birth here in the springtime. And, there is a lot of harm to the environment, certainly, but there's also a lot of beauty, and nature is continuing on. And I think it's something that we can really draw from if we're able to do so. And I think the other thing is to get really educated. I've been reading more than ever about, the roots of tyranny, and how we can really understand this political moment, because I do believe the more we understand the root causes of the consequences and the situations we're in, the more we're able to address what to do. And so I think we feel powerless when we don't really know what's going on or how to get grounded. So it's a really good time to, as you were talking about, improve our education. How did we get here? Where does this come from? What is my place in what I can do about it? And I think that's really also something that we can do, is how do we get centered in this moment and educate ourselves so we understand what's going on as to the best of our knowledge, and can roll up our sleeves and get engaged. I think the most difficult thing is just to be on the sidelines and not feel like you have any agency. And I think it's really important to activate our agency.
I love the fact when you said, getting back into nature and we're surrounded by negativity. It's kind of well documented that negative reinforcement does not work and can actually completely stunt you, growth-wise, feeling-wise, moving-wise. But the positive reinforcement of going out into nature and just having that quietness kind of recalibrate your brain, sort of kind of hitting Control-Alt-Delete, for lack of a better term, restarting yourself and then getting back out there, kind of recharge. I love the fact you brought that up, because a lot of people, especially now, are feeling overwhelmed, and they're feeling like they're at a loss. And they, I'm hearing lots of references to Handmaid's Tale, that it wasn't supposed to be a documentary. And I think people, the more they hear about the negative, the more they succumb to it of what could I do? And what you brought up is find your people, get back to nature, work in systems thinking, so strategy. That is so very important, which leads me to one more question is, why is it mostly women that dive into this field? From just my personal observation, I've seen that it's mostly women, people of diverse backgrounds. We're the ones who care. I guess primarily, as you said, we're the most affected. So maybe shed some light on that in a more succinct manner than what I was able to say.
What you said was very good, and all very good. I mean, I think that, men and women and people across the gender spectrum care about climate. In fact, when they do polls, it shows it's one of the leading issues that people care about, but we don't hear about that in the mainstream media. But I think there's a special role that women are playing in the climate crisis, both in the sense of it's higher on their issues of concern, and Also because, as you said, women are most impacted by the climate crisis. And of course, those things that are impacting us, we care about because it's affecting our bodies, our lives, our children, our families, our communities. Yeah. And so just to put it in a nutshell, due to gender inequality all over the world, women are impacted more seriously by the climate crisis due to the lack of mobility or the lack of economy or where they stand in their social structures. In some countries, women are not even allowed to swim. So if there's a flood, they're going to drown. And so, all over the world, we see in different degrees, depending on different countries and societies, how women are impacted. A lot of women are responsible for caretaking of their families. So when there's a crisis, they're impacted more. They're caring for their children, they're caring for the elderly. We know there's a lot of health impacts that specifically affect women when it comes to fossil fuel pollution or heat waves and being pregnant and how that affects pregnancy. So there's so many ways that women are harmed more by the climate crisis and environmental degradation at every level. And so this also pushes that agenda to want to find solutions and to really figure out what we can do. And I think on the other end of the scale, we need to look at the incredible solutions and the role of women as leaders of the climate crisis. And it has been shown study after study that you actually can't get to sustainability or climate solutions without women's leadership. And just to name a few things, there was a really powerful study that showed that something called the Women's Political Empowerment Index, which is basically how women have agency in their countries. And it's an index that is monitored throughout the world, and how much women are involved in society or political power or what their economies are like. And with just a 1 unit increase in the Women's Political Empowerment Index in any country, you get an 11.51 decrease in carbon emissions, which is huge. And that's just like one stat on carbon emission reductions. Not that that's, the whole story about the climate crisis, but, 40 to 80% of all household food production in developing countries is done by women. Or when you have these water studies being done to show what water programs are being successful, if you don't involve women, they don't work. And I could go on and on. Countries led by women are doing much better on climate policies. And so one of the things we can do is lift up women's leadership, visibilize the story of women and what they're doing on the ground, everything from forest production to food sovereignty to renewable localized energy to climate policy. Women are leading the way. You can read story after story and study after study. You don't have to take my word for it. But how can we visibilize that more? And how can we fund that more? And how can we share these stories more that really are a solution for everyone and for nature?
Oh, I love the fact that, women in leadership is so important. I actually read an article many years ago. I do a lot of random readings. And I came across this article of a study done in England probably 40 years ago. And they had children, a group of boys and a group of girls, and they put them in two separate houses to see how they would live, how they would adapt. The boys pretty much went feral, food fights, making a mess, eating junk food. The girls, probably for the first, they said 3 to 4 days, argued amongst themselves, fought. But then they had dinner time. Then they had chores planned. Then they actually planned meals. And they kind of formed their own little society, and they had, rules, and you do this and you do that. And they actually formed their own society. And I thought, okay, the boys went feral. The girls organized and made structure and actually became quite, healthy out of it. And yet we're not in a position of power when we have repeatedly shown that, we actually are pretty clear thinking individuals that can problem solve. I mean, anyone who has a child can problem solve anything. I have witnessed it. I don't have children, but I've witnessed this firsthand where I was like, that's magic. If you can handle that, you can pretty much handle just about anything that's thrown your way.
Well, I think that we need to understand that part of the strategy of political powers that be that are primarily men, white men, and the whole idea of supremacy and white men ruling the world, and this ideology of supremacy over nature, supremacy over people who are not white oriented or white presenting. the fact of women being less important than men. All of these ideologies of supremacy are very, very dangerous. And we need to remember that the wealthy elite and those in power want to continue to create instruments and mechanisms for that to continue.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
so
It's control.
Yeah. And so I think when we're looking at, the fact that women are presenting solutions and are good leaders, there's so much oppression towards that. And even though there's been so many breakthroughs in the work of feminist policy and breakthroughs of literature and every which way we could be expressing the need for there to be egalitarian systems and equity for women. The fact is, there was a report that was put out earlier this year by the United Nations that showed that 1 in 4 countries this year reported a backlash in women's rights in 2024. So I think we need to be aware that, we can get into a bubble thinking that things are progressing for women, but they're not. And here in the United States, of course, we're experiencing a lot of backlash.
Oh, yes.
Reproductive rights and many, many other issues. And so, yeah, I think that this is part of what needs to transform at a very deep level is a continuing of patriarchal institutions and how that's affecting all the other issues as well.
Oh, yeah. It's an absolute chain reaction of how everyone's affected by it. And we manage. I mean, this is what you focus on. This is what you do is you help people navigate those obstacles and navigate through that and then manage any kind of backlash that comes their way. And if people wanted to find you, connect with you, attend the virtual meeting, what is the best way to do that so they can?
Yeah, thank you. Well, everyone is welcome. Men, women, everyone across the gender spectrum, everyone is welcome to join us starting June 23rd to June 28th. And people can go to our website, which is www, and then WECAN, WECAN, like yes, we can. So WECAN, and then the word international spelled out, .org, WECANinternational.org. And right there on our homepage, you'll see a way to link to read the entire agenda for 6 days, see the 125 speakers. I mean, just incredible leaders from women who are very well known, like the former president of Ireland, Mary Robinson, Christiana Figueres, who was the head of the UNFCCC when the Paris Climate Agreement was signed. There are incredible leaders from Brazil. The COP will be in Brazil this year. So we have ministers from Brazil who are indigenous women leaders who got themselves into office. We have grassroots leaders on food sovereignty, forest protection, feminist climate policy, things on journalism and how to have breakthrough journalism with women's leadership. I mean, it's just going to be truly a comprehensive, very inspiring event. So you can go there, you can learn about the speakers, you can sign up for all 6 days. And I would also note that, we really believe this needs to be accessible to everyone. So there'll be simultaneous interpretation in English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. So you can invite people from all over the world to participate. People will be able to be in a Zoom room. And so people will be able to be in a chat where you can ask the speakers questions. You can network with others. So it's also a really big networking opportunity. So yeah, we're just really thrilled to have this. And we will be also sharing a call to action that organizations can sign that we're going to be bringing to Climate Week in New York and then bringing to the COP itself in Brazil at the end of the year. So this is also time to learn and to strategize for COP30, but also beyond and how we can work together collectively.
I absolutely love that. It's obviously keeping you extraordinarily busy, but the fact that you're offering so many different opportunities for people to learn, educate themselves, participate, but the networking, in my personal opinion, that was my favorite part. Even if it's on a Zoom, I actually found that to be easier than in person because I just interact better this way. And you can talk to people, you're not as shy. And having that opportunity in multiple rooms, I just love the fact you're doing this. And that's June 23rd through 28th, correct?
That's right. And it will be, for those who are in the United States, it will be from 1 o'clock Eastern until 6 o'clock Eastern every day for 6 days. And you can choose
AM or PM? 1 a.m. or 1 p.m.?
Oh, sorry. 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Thanks for the clarity. 1
You
p.m.
never know what time zones.
Yeah, there's other time zones, but it'll be 1 p.m. until 6 p.m. every day.
Eastern. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. So guys, again, Osprey, thank you so much for coming back. You are always welcome anytime you have something new you're working on or want to revisit. You're doing phenomenal work, and I'm a huge fan of what you do. And folks, please check out her organization. It's WECAN, WECAN, says in We Can Do It, yes who can. And it's wecaninternational.org, correct?
That's it.
Perfect. wecaninternational.org. And then it's the Global Women's Assembly for Climate Justice, Path to COP30 and Beyond. Please check it out. Please, participate, learn something new every day. It's the only way we're going to get through this, guys. And I do thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate all the work that you're doing, and thanks for having me speak with you today. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet of you. So guys, again, please check out the organization. Please go to the website and sign up. But I'm Wendy Nystrom, your host with Environmental Social Justice, proudly sponsored by BioLargo. They just make life better. We'll talk to you guys later. Take care.